Everybody. Thanks for joining today's information session. My name is Kavya Balaji. I'm here with DEMPED. I'm a small business program manager at DEMPED. If you've come to any other grant program information session in the past regarding Great Streets or a number of other grants, you may have seen me at those information sessions. But today's session will be focused on the Capitol Hill Construction Grant. Great, wonderful. So we actually have two guest speakers today from DDOT that are here to tell us a little bit about the projects that they have at their respective sites and the impact of construction on these businesses. So we will get started. I know the session is scheduled for an hour and a half, but I don't anticipate it will actually take that long, but we'll start out the session, go through all of the content, hear from our guest speakers, talk about eligibility, and then at the end, we will go into questions. I will share my screen. Wonderful. Can anyone tell me if you can see my screen now? A little thumbs up? Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. Wonderful. So this is actually a completely new grant program. We've never had it before, and it's come from council members as a result of some of the construction projects that we have going on. So the agenda for today, we'll get started. I'll discuss the grant overview. We're going to start off hearing from Andrew Grinberg from DDOT about the bus priority project construction. And then we have Peyton Manning, who's helping with the PR for Pennsylvania Avenue and Potomac construction. And then I'll go into program eligibility, the timeline for how to apply, and an overview of our scoring and review process. So again, this grant is called Capitol Hill Construction Impact. There is $150,000 in funding available for this grant, and we're anticipating to award 10 to 30 businesses from anything between $5,000 to $15,000. So the RFA and NOFA was dropped a couple weeks ago on May 1st. That's when the applications opened. So if you haven't already been familiar with the RFA, the request for applications, that is a document that has very extensive descriptions and resources on how exactly to apply for this program. So I would scan this QR code right here, take a moment to do so, and you'll get the information that you will need in order to apply for this. So this information session, I'm recording this and this will be posted on the website, but I also highly encourage you to read through the RFA in detail as well. So the deadline for this program is June 12th at 4 p.m. So although the deadline's at 4 p.m., we're using a new platform this year called Submittable. And sometimes any portal that receives a lot of applications towards the end starts to really slow down and crash. So I would really recommend you all to try to get your application in by June 11th and at the latest by 2 hours before on June 12th. So the goal of this program, so it's called CHCI for short, is to provide short-term financial relief to small businesses impacted by construction projects with DDOT. And these projects, so in general, the neighborhood it's targeting is Capitol Hill, but specifically near Pennsylvania Avenue Southeast, Potomac Avenue Southeast, and along 8th Street Southeast between Pennsylvania Avenue Southeast and Virginia Avenue Southeast, all in DC, of course. So in order to see if you are eligible, even if you're in the Capitol Hill area, you need to be along these shaded areas in this PowerPoint. So this green area right here is around the Pennsylvania or the 8th Street Bus Priority Project. And then this red and yellow area is along the Pennsylvania Avenue and Potomac project. So based on the color that you receive when you input your your address, it will either tell you if you're eligible or it'll tell you if you're not in the boundaries at all. Now, if you're within the boundaries, you will likely be part of one of the three impact zones. So the red is a high impact zone, the yellow is a medium impact zone, and the green is a low impact zone. So that is really essential to determine how impacted you will be by the construction, and it may relate to how much funding you get as well. So again, take a moment to scan this QR code, or you can click this link on the website as well, but just to check right now, I encourage all of the businesses to just scan the code and see if you're eligible at all. I'll give you a minute to do so. Awesome. So hopefully you now know if you're eligible, at least based on location and which eligibility zone that you're in. When you enter your address, just keep track of what eligibility zone you're in, if you're high impact, medium impact, or low impact, because when you do fill out your application, you will be asked to designate that. So I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Andrew Grinberg, to discuss the 8th Street Bus Priority Project.
Yeah, hey there, folks. As Kavya said, my name is Andrew Grinberg. I'm with DDOT. I'm a transportation planner on the bus priority team. Nice to see some of the 8th Street businesses and stakeholders that we've been engaging with over the last few years on this project. So as you surely have noticed, the construction on this project has begun. The project runs from East Capitol down to M Street, southeast, all along 8th Street. We will be adding bus lanes south of Pennsylvania Avenue, bus stop bulb outs to allow for buses to board in lane and to expand the sidewalk at certain bus stop locations. Just wanted to keep it pretty high level for this presentation and focus kind of on the construction impacts. So kind of the heaviest construction elements are these bus stop bulb outs, and we are also doing a pedestrian island. So that kind of concrete work is where you'll see the most impact. Those two photos on the left were taken this morning. I'm sorry, they're looking a little low resolution. But as you can see, there's kind of like some traffic diversion, but we are able to maintain access along the corridor throughout. So we're not anticipating any actual detours off of 8th Street, but sometimes will require some, lane shifting and merging with flagging operations. Sidewalks should remain open throughout. So that top left photo shows kind of the extent of the construction into the sidewalk. And this is at 8th and G where we've begun. We've basically completed one bus stop bulb out so far, and the second one is under construction and we'll be wrapping up soon. We've got a few more. Each one takes approximately 2 weeks to construct. And so those construction impacts will be moving through the corridor. The next one will be up at 8th Street and D, the northern leg north of Pennsylvania. It's a lengthening of that bus stop will include some work kind of like this. A little later in the project, there's going to be some milling and paving and the striping and application of the red bus lanes. That will just be for a few days, however, kind of covering a bigger geographic area. And that's the whole area south of starting at Penn down to M Street, actually to L Street. Apologize. And then there's some low impact activities throughout the project, like signage changes along the corridor, all the parking signs. So expect that concrete work to be happening now through likely into July, and then the repaving a little later in the summer and into the fall. It's all kind of dependent on a lot of factors, so we keep our construction timelines very rough as depends on our crew availability, weather, lots of other things. So just to reiterate, construction impact, so no restriction of pedestrian or roadway access. There will be some lane closures though, temporarily. A few bus stop temporary closures at some locations when we're doing work at those stops. And then just wanted to call out the impacts on streeteries. So for businesses that had an active streetery, we've been in communication, but we cannot have any streeteries on the corridor during construction. So for those that are applying for the permanent streetery permits, we'll be communicating clearly when we're free, once those permits are approved, free to reconstruct. But we did have a few streeteries who needed to remove from the roadway probably earlier than planned. So that basically wraps it up. I'll be happy to answer any questions later on.
Thank you so much for that overview, Andrew. For any businesses that are in this area, do you have any specific questions about the construction in your area? Go ahead, Brian.
I'm sure it'll be taken care of, but just double checking. I know you said the construction will end sometime in late July. We do have a parade on July 4th. I'm assuming that the equipment will be staged off the street for that day.
That's a great flag. We'll make sure of that.
Okay. That's it.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Andrew before we move on?
Is there gonna be any like loud work done on weekends?
That's not planned at this point. No.
Okay, so we will assume that Saturday, Sunday during the day and in the morning it will be pretty quiet.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your questions. We will be moving on to the next project, so Pennsylvania Avenue and Potomac project. So we have Peyton Manning on here who will be the representative for this. So feel free to take it away.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kavya. Thank you everybody for joining. Like she said, my name is Peyton. I'm with the DDOT project management team, working on the Penn Potomac intersection project. We're well into the construction and now pretty far away. Well, not far, we're a block away from the businesses, but the impact to the businesses in the 1400 block, I think we should be mostly away from your businesses now. No more sidewalk work or work in the streets, just the final milling and paving of the roadway. And most of our work is happening within the intersection now. We should be done with construction, I think December of 2026. So about about 8 months left or so, and we'll be out of the area. Really appreciate you, Kavya, for bringing us on and looking out for the businesses. But I'm here for any questions. I can take them back to a larger team, and obviously happy to set up any meetings if anybody would like to meet with the team, but don't have too much of an update for the project now. Like I said, most of our work now is going to be confined to the intersection. Really appreciate you all being so patient with us as we've advanced with the construction. And happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. And Kavya, I'm not sure if any of the businesses from our project, our project even are on right now. So perhaps we can be sure to meet with them on site like we had talked about before, if needed.
Mm-hmm. For the businesses that are on this call, are any of you all from the Pennsylvania or Potomac area? If so, just raise your hand. Okay.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Nick.
And Renata and Tracy, are you along the 8th Street bus priority then?
Yes, we own 8th Street.
Okay, great. And Tracy, where are you located?
I'm on A Street.
8th Street?
Yes.
Okay. Is that within any of the project zones?
I'm not sure. I saw it's a lot A Street in near Pennsylvania. A Street Southeast in Pennsylvania.
Hayden, do you know if
Yes,
that's within your project
eight-
area or?
8th and Penn, yes.
8th and
Okay.
8th,
Tracy, you're
8th
at the
and Penn.
salon, just south of 8th and D,
Okay, great.
right?
Perfect.
But I would just double check if you have any questions with the map that was provided. Just to ensure that you are within the eligibility zone. So you can scan that QR code.
Sure. Oh my gosh. I'm on my phone right now, so I'm not sure how I can scan it.
Ah, okay.
Oh,
This link here, let me see. I'll put this link in the chat. So you can click on this link and enter your business there. Okay, so we will continue moving on in the presentation. In the meantime, Tracy, you're welcome to click on that link and see if you're eligible within that. So other than location eligibility, which we have covered, there are several other eligibility requirements. So the council has put this grant in specifically for small businesses. So we have defined that as being less than 100 employees. Your annual revenue must be under 15 million. You must be independently owned with 3 or less franchises. So no large franchises are allowed for this. No large corporate chains. We're looking for locally owned small franchises with 3 or less in DC. Your business must be currently operational. So if you've closed down a long time ago or you haven't opened yet during the period of construction, then we cannot argue that your business has been affected by the construction by these two projects. This must be brick and mortar operations. So you must have some sort of in-person activity that your business runs. So that can be a barber shop that has in-person operations, or it can also be a professional service organization that has in-person clients. You can have a e-commerce component, but your entire business cannot be e-commerce because, again, you cannot argue that your business has been affected by in-person issues due to construction if there are no in-person operations. So must be a brick and mortar operational site. You must have a active lease or deed. Letter of intent is not allowed because, again, if your business is not operating at this location already, you can't justify that it's been impacted by the construction of these sites. You must be in good standing with the district. So there is a number of compliance documents that you will need to submit that you will need to do in order to show the compliance with the different government agencies. And lastly, you must describe through your narrative and through your attachments and your documents that you demonstrate some sort of financial need and that you require support to manage the effects of the construction for your business. So I mentioned in the last slide that there are a list of different compliance documents and required documents that you will need to submit for your project. So in that link that I put in the chat, that's also in a QR code in this presentation, you are required to enter your business address there. And I ask you to take a screenshot of that showing that you are eligible and enter that and upload that directly into the application. That will make things very smooth for your pre-screening process. And you will also need to submit a budget. So this will describe the different items that you are planning to use the funding towards, the justification for those items, how much you're planning on requesting for each of those items. The more detailed, the better. It's very helpful to see how the funding will be used. 2 years of recent tax returns. We use this information to show that you're below the 15 million annual revenue. So it's important that we have that as well. You must have an active business license. Clean hands. So if you've received clean hands a year ago, that is not going to be up to date. We ask for a clean hands that has been submitted in the last 3 months. Certificate of good standing is required. W-9 revised March 2024. Site control, again, lease or deed only. Certificate of occupancy. And then there are 2 documents that are not required, but they will enhance your application if you do include them. So if you've been impacted by construction recently, or you have an idea of how your business might be impacted by construction, submit any documentation that you have to support this, and that will really strengthen your application. Similarly, revenue loss documentation. If you've already been impacted by construction and experienced any loss in revenue that you can tie to this, then submit any documentation that you have. If this is for a project that has just started or has not yet occurred, then you can submit any documentation of estimates or predictions as well. I think any sort of explanation or further details really enhances and strengthens your application.
Thank you.
Great. Any questions on eligibility or documents before we move on?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I have a
Great.
question.
Yes,
Sorry.
Renata.
For the lease or deed, do we need to submit the whole entire lease that we have, or is there a
Yes.
specific page you need? Okay,
Yeah, you can upload the full document.
full document. Okay. Hey, thank you.
So this is an example of a successful budget application that we've had for other grant programs. So this business is including the item that they're requesting the funding for, a detailed justification on how it's going to support the business in the greater corridor, the cost for that one item, the total expenses that they need, how much they're requesting from this grant, and how much they're contributing of their own accord. So either their owner contribution or their external contribution. So for this grant, it's actually great because the ways that you can use the funding is quite broad. So this will all still be subject to approval from our agency, but you can make a case for a wide variety of different items that you would like to use the funding for. But you will need to include all of those items specifically and justify it. If you're just saying general recuperation that your business requires from construction, that's not going to be a good case for us. I would get as specific as possible. If you have any statistics.
gì hả? Ba cái chân hả?
I'm just going to mute you. If you have any specific statistics on loss in sales or foot traffic, and you're trying to recuperate that through adding a different sales system or anything like that, it is pretty open if you want to use the funding towards rent or any other expenses. We are pretty open again, but you will need to be able to justify all of that within your budget document. Narrative questions and scoring. So after you've submitted all of your compliance documents and answered all of the business-oriented questions, there is a couple narrative sections. So if you've ever applied for any of our other grant programs in the past, you'll definitely notice that this application is much easier and there aren't as many questions. So this is very good news. This is intended to be a very simple grant, but you still need to be able to hit on all of these 4 different categories that you'll be scored on. So construction impact, that's 25 points. So applicants should use the map again that I linked, and that there's also a QR code to indicate if your business is operating out of a high impact zone, a medium impact zone, or a low impact zone. So depending on that, you'll get points associated accordingly. Business need. So your business will need to describe the current or anticipated effects for either the 8th Street Bus Priority Project or the Pennsylvania Avenue and Potomac Project. And I would encourage you to go in detail describing your impacts on constructions, sale, visibility, estimated revenue loss, and submitting any reports will really add to this section. So again, it's not required, but if you do add it, you have a better chance of scoring very well in this section. Business continuity. So is your business really strategizing and coming up with a plan on how you're going to be able to manage the effects of construction? Are you describing in detail how you're planning on using the grant funds and how the grant funds will then help sustain your business in the long run? If a business is showing that they are not thinking about these things, they're not sure about how they want to use this grant fund, and aren't making a good case for us on how the grant funds will positively affect your business, then it is harder for us to make a case to award your business. So make sure you're thinking about that and really incorporating that into your application. And lastly, business risk. Describe all of the risks that your business faces if you don't receive funding from this program, and how that will affect your business, how the risks that your business face in general as well. Line. So May 1st to June 12th, applications are already open. We're right in the middle of the application period. I would encourage you to start looking at your application and working on your narrative questions, but if not, at the very, very least, getting your compliance documentation done. Sometimes these compliance documents can take some time because we're working with some other agencies as well to get those documentation. And you might realize last minute that your business is actually not in compliance with these other agencies. So I would encourage you to get those documents done first and foremost, and then going on to your narrative components after that. And again, not waiting until the very last minute to submit. I would say at the very latest 2 hours before, because the website can be really slow. And for all of our different grant programs, we always get emails after saying the portal was too slow and they couldn't submit it on time. And at that point, there's nothing that we can do. We can't provide an extension after the deadline has been passed. So I would definitely try to submit as early as possible. My recommendation would be a whole day before the application deadline, just to be safe. So after you've submitted your application, there will be a couple different phases of review. So then there will be the pre-screening phase, then the reviewer evaluation phase, and then finally, for the businesses that are selected, we will conditionally award them and ask them for a number of other documentations and requirements that they would need to complete at that phase.
I have a question while we filing for this. It seems like we need to create the organization profile, correct, on the
Yes,
website? Okay,
that's
I just
correct.
wanted to make sure I'm in the right spot.
Hmm. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And also, as you're going through your application, if you have any questions, I would take a screenshot of this because if you have any questions about the program or eligibility, you can contact me, Kavya Balaji. So my email is kavya.balaji@dc.gov. If you have any questions about submittable, so you asked a question about the application profile, and if you have any question about the portal in which you're submitting your application, if you're having any technical difficulties, you're not able to click on something or move something, or having any issues with submitting your application in that portal, reach out to demped.grants@dc.gov. If you reach out to me, you can, and I'll essentially be forwarding your emails to demped.grants@dc.gov. So if you want a faster turnaround, I would encourage you to email them directly. And then if you have any questions about the Pennsylvania and Potomac project, I included Peyton's email to this slide. And then any questions about 8th Street Bus Priority Project, I included Andrew's email to this slide as well. And we also have Brian Reddy on this call with Barracks Row, Main Street. Do you want to introduce yourself? I think you're muted.
I'm Brian with Barracks Row Main Street.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, if you already don't know Brian, the Main Streets is a great organization that provides a lot of resources to businesses in the Barracks Row, Capitol Hill area. So I know sometimes Main Streets also provides technical support in the application as well. So if you have any questions or need any support regarding the Main Streets or being in Barracks Road, I'm sure that you can reach out to Brian Reddy as well.
Hi, Brian. Thank you. I have a question. With all this bus project, we had to remove our chalet, which was outdoor seating for about 35 additional seats. Will that be a subject to add to this grant as a business loss?
Yes.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can describe that in detail as well. The sales that you lost, the customers that you lost, anything like that. The more information, the better in the application.
The cost of
But yeah,
building it and
that
then
would
tearing it
be an
down.
example
Yes,
of a revenue loss.
that was my question, Brian. Building it and tearing it down, since we already did it because we knew that this project coming our way, we obviously already invested money in that. Can we use this grant to cover our loss on tearing it apart at least, or like building it, because it was quite a chunk of money there.
Yes, you should be able to do that as well. I believe the RFA says you can reimburse for any expenses that are occurring during the period of construction.
Okay, and do you have this period specifically, or does it matter when we tear this apart, like when we broke it apart, or what is the? Because we knew about this project since last year, so we did it in fall of last year, late fall.
I think you will just need to provide sufficient documentation that this was related to the construction and this was something that you did as a result of it. So if you're able to describe that in a narrative basis or provide any sort of documentation that supports that or a notification that you got around that time, anything like that, I think would enhance your application and strengthen the case for that.
Thank you. And then here's the question then to Andrew. I'm sorry, I don't want to take much time, but Andrew, we had a conversation with you last summer about this project, and would you be able to, I don't know, maybe send me some information where remember when we were talking that we will, all the parking spots will be switched from to parallel parking, and we would need to tear down our, like, I mean, we will need to redo our chalet. Is there, I'm not sure, we had a conversation face to face, but would you be able to send me the information where it says that the parking will be parallel so we can just apply to that?
Yeah, so there's a citywide streetery program that DDOT administers, and I will find the link for that and share it with you. But so you, basically anyone who wants to have a streetery in the district, regardless of whether or not there was a construction project, had to either apply for a permanent permit or remove the old streeteries that were granted under the temporary program. And so all the criteria, there's a whole new set of criteria, and one of them is fitting in the allotted parking lane. And so if you want to pursue a streetery under that program, you should start that application process, and we can share the dimensions that you have to work with
No,
under the
but
new
you
configuration.
you saw our streetery. Our streetery was built in a different way. We can't take down 30% of streetery without breaking it apart. So we had to take it apart because we would not fit into the dimensions, because the parking will be changed. When you will be doing a bus project, our parking spots will be parallel parking, not as it is there now, as I'm understanding it correctly.
Yes, that's correct. So you would not be able to reconstruct in the same shape that you had it before. You are
Yes.
absolutely correct.
Yes. So in order for us to fit to the standards, we would have to tear apart. We would have to remake it. So we took it down. We took down our chalet. So that was one of the reasons, because we will have to redo it, right? So is that the case where we can implement that to this program and receive the grant to cover some of the cost?
I think that's a question for DEMPED
Okay.
as to
I-
the applicability
think-
of your situation.
I think if you're located in the priority zone and you're able to connect that to the effects of construction that is occurring in that zone, that again will strengthen your case for that. But I do think that we'll be pretty flexible with the uses of this. And I think Nick also asked a question about if the project expense can be used retroactively. Yes, it can be used retroactively during the period of construction. But again, that does not have a strict beginning or ending to that date. So as long as you're able to make a case that it was related to the construction happening in that location and these projects, then you should be good.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? And I also see that Christian has joined the call. So Christian's also part of the Pennsylvania Avenue and Potomac project. So he's been super helpful with getting this program launched as well. Feel free to chime in and add anything if you'd like, Christian.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kavya. Nothing really to add, but if you do need a resource in terms of like our project status, we do anticipate construction ending this year at the end of December. So we are close to the halfway point of being done, or we're over halfway done. So, but yeah, Peyton is also our liaison for our consultant doing our public outreach, and really, really appreciate all the work he's done. He's probably been in touch with many of you who are impacted with that project, but specifically for DDOT, feel free to reach out to myself as well. Kavya has my email and my phone number, so happy to share it. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. So if there are no other questions, thank you all for joining the call today. This again has been recorded, and we will be posting it on obviously DC as well as the DEMPED website. And the PowerPoint will also be posted there. Ideally, we'll do one more information session, hopefully in person. We'll chat with you all to schedule that, DDOT and Brian after. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining. I hope that this will be a really great resource for you all.
Thanks so much,
Wonderful.
Kavya.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Great. Perfect.